everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com and it's time to go to Ohio. I wish I had the sense of regional pride that people in the United States do. And the reason we're in Ohio, specifically Cleveland, Ohio, is for AEW Dynamite. But how good was last night's Dynamite? There's only one way to find out. Oh, I'm hyped up this morning, apparently, and that's by assigning each individual segment a lovely individual grade. That's right, it's time for AEW Dynamite Graded. We start things off with the number one contender for Chris Jericho's AEW Championship. That's right, Jon Moxley, making his way down through the crowd, and he's going to kick off the show with a nice promo. And we all know how good Moxley is on the mic. He's always very, very consistent. He brings up Jericho's past and all the terrible things he's done, such as stealing Rey Mysterio's mask, punching HBK's wife, and more recent things he's done as well, such as, of course, driving that spike into Moxley's eye. But when you're looking at Jericho's past, how far back do you want to go? I'd have quite liked it if he'd gone like, and on Nitro in the 90s, he stood in the ring and wasted everyone's time and read a big list of his moves to undermine Dean Malenko. I just wanted him to go on a proper deep dive. He teamed with Lance Storm as the Thrill Seekers and did an outrageous video package. I wanted this sort of level of history. No, I didn't really want that level of history. It would have been silly, but it would have been amusing as well. Moxley calls Jericho a bully and says that he hates bullies and that he will take, not win, he will take the AEW World Championship. But Moxley says he doesn't have the patience to wait until the pay-per-view. He wants to do things right here tonight in the great state of Ohio, which is of course Moxley's home state. So the crowd are just hanging on his every word here. And in wanting to, you know, cut short the wait for the title match and just have it right here tonight in this great city, he's channeling a bit of John Cena, isn't he? You can't see him. Or he can't see you because of the... And then Judas hits the speakers and here comes Chris Jericho, and they play it for a long time. Jericho is there standing at the top of the ramp waiting, and Moxley stood in the ring swaying as well, just waiting too. And they're both just swaying backwards and forwards. Clearly the reason is that they want to cut off the music at the right time so that everyone sings along to the chorus of Judas like they did on the cruise ship last week. But they cut it off slightly too early. They cut it off before the end of the chorus, that I'm becoming, and nobody really sings along because they can't bridge the gap between the music stopping and the exciting bit of the song. So, I mean, Jericho looks so rattled. He is so rattled that they didn't sing along, bless him. Jericho heels out for a bit. He calls everyone typical Cleveland idiots, presumably not for singing along to the right part of the song. And also, he brings up Moxley's mother. He says, I saw your mom backstage, John, and she was looking very fetching, might I add, and everyone's like, oh no! He says you might give her a call later on. It's just heel 101. He also says that Moxley looks like a busted up Jack Sparrow and then does the worst British accent one of the worst British accents I've ever heard. But anyway, Jericho predictably turns down Moxley's offer to have the title match tonight. They've got pay-per-views to sell. And also, he brings out the rest of the members of the Inner Circle, Sammy Guevara, Santana, Ortiz, and Big Jake Hager. And they say, come on then, Moxley, if you want to have a brawl, let's do it right now, 5-on-1. Moxley says yes, maybe unsurprisingly. He is a bit crazy. He says yes, all right then, and starts to get out of the ring, and Jericho's like, okay, we'll bring out more henchmen then. And out come 5 of Santana and Ortiz's street thug friends, apparently, from the South Bronx. But Moxley still goes for it. It's 10-on-1, and he says, yeah, I quite like those odds, and he goes for it. He drops Ortiz on the ramp with a paradigm shift and then just dives into the fray. And he's probably going to get beaten down, but security come out to separate the two sides, to separate Moxley and everyone else. And Moxley's still trying to get shots in here and there around members of security while he can. Eventually, though, it's just too much, and he escapes into the crowd to a monstrous reception. I'm going to give this, right, this might seem a little bit harsh actually, but I don't think I enjoyed this as much as other people seem to have. I'm going to give it a B grade. I thought it was still a good opening to the show. I thought that Moxley was excellent on the mic as always. I thought Jericho was very good on the mic as always as well. But I didn't enjoy the whole aspect of bringing out these random dudes to back up the Inner Circle. We're not invested in these henchmen. We don't really care about them. And they're just there to, quite literally, to make up the numbers. It was still a high energy start of the show though, and the crowd were hot for Moxley, so I can't complain too much. But again, I think he maybe should have got the upper hand here, and even though he sort of got the upper hand because he dropped one member of the Inner Circle, it was a bit of a stalemate, and yes, he looked brave, but he also ran away. None of it quite made sense in my mind, but the mic work was good, and it was an exciting start to the show. Next up, our first match of the night, tag team action pitting the Young Bucks against the Butcher and the Blade. Before the match though, we see a video from a previous time, somewhere in the past week probably, of MJF meeting with the Butcher and the Blade in the bowels of a building somewhere. Maybe it's in the arena tonight, who knows, but he hands them an envelope with Young Bucks written on it, and I really like this. A bit of a fleshing out of the relationship between MJF and the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny, which hasn't really been explored enough yet for my money. So this remedied that. This was really good. Because when it was first revealed that MJF had hired the services of the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny, I thought that's really weird, isn't it? It's just a bit too convenient. They're not similar at all. They don't share the same motives. But actually, it does. This video really helped that, because MJF enters this room where they're chopping up meat and everything, and he looks really uncomfortable. He's got Wardlow with him, and the difference between the two sides is really apparent. You know, the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny are really creepy and weird and sinister. MJF and Wardlow are in their suits looking totally out of place, but it works. You know, now that we've seen it, I can accept it a lot more. Back to the arena though, and the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny are joined by MJF and Wardlow during their entrance, but then MJF goes and sits on commentary, and he's really good, predictably good, on guest commentary. At one point during the match, for example, he's absolutely raging that the Young Bucks threw him in the pool on the cruise ship. He says they could have killed him because he doesn't know how to swim. Swimming's for poor people, he says. And also says that the Young Bucks portray themselves as good Christian boys, but the only Bible verse he thinks those marks know is Austin 3:16. That's such a good line. The Bucks sort of run wild, you know, as the superior tag team, but when they're just building up a head of steam, Ali, or the Bunny, is on the outside to snag a leg and help her boys regain control of the match. Eventually, after a little spell of the heels dominating the match, Nick is able to escape their clutches, make the hot tag to Matt. Matt runs wild for a little bit, and then they isolate the Blade and hit the Melter driver, and that's enough to pick up the victory. The heels attack after the match, which MJF is delighted about on commentary, because he's like, yes, this is what I paid them to do, take them out of commission, stop their careers from advancing any further. But Kenny Omega runs down to make the save, hits the ropes, big V trigger to the Butcher, who's out of commission now, and here comes Hangman Page with a beer, or the remnants of a beer, in a plastic cup in his hand. He gets in the ring, hands the beer off to Matt Jackson and literally says, hold my beer, and then hits a buckshot lariat to the Blade, and then takes the beer back off a very annoyed looking Matt and finishes it and leaves. And it's another excellent building block in this wonderful slow burn feud between Hangman Page and the rest of the Elite, or the Elite, because he's no longer a member, of course. This gets a B+. The match itself was fine, not that long, not that developed, but it was still exciting for what it was worth. I think I would have given that a B grade, but the aftermath bumps it up to a B+. I'm just loving, it's no secret, I'm loving this storyline with Hangman Page. Next up, women's division action now between Nyla Rose, who's been on a bit of a tear recently on both episodes of Dynamite and Dark as well, taking on Big Swole. This was a mixed bag. It was really good at some points and then really rough at some points as well. I'm not sure if the two have wrestled that often before, but there didn't seem to be quite that natural chemistry there between two performers you can tell know each other really well. Big Swole's big comeback towards the end was really good. She's got a very nice variety of strikes and they all land pretty well, but there were some little bits here and there, especially earlier in the match, where they didn't look quite like they knew what the next spot was, or one would have to quite obviously feed the other one and tell them what to do, or to just duck before a punch had been thrown, or little things like that, which didn't quite help the quality of the match for me. Still though, they did okay. The finishing sequence was good, with Big Swole going for a sunset flip, but Nyla Rose using her superior strength to stop that move, drag Big Swole up, and drop her with a big powerbomb for the 1-2-3. Unfortunately, I can only give this match a C+ grade, and I feel really harsh doing that, because the ambition to have a good match was certainly there. It was just the execution that let them down a little bit. But still, I predict big things for Big Swole in her future in the AEW women's division, and Nyla Rose looks to be on a bit of a tear. Maybe she'll have a rematch against Riho coming up. Next up, it's Kip Sabian, accompanied of course as always by Penelope Ford, taking on Cody, accompanied as always now by Arn Anderson, the head coach of the Nightmare family. Cheers coach, mate, put me in coach. All the coach cliches, what more do you want? Sabian goes for Cody straight away, attacking him right at the bell and getting a little flurry of offense in before getting in Arn Anderson's face on the outside, and Arn backs him down, and Arn Anderson is still, even in his slightly advanced age, he's still so intimidating. I would not like to fight that. I wouldn't like to fight anyone I'm talking about in this video. What am I talking about? A little bit later on, the action spills back to the outside. Cody and Kip are just trading strikes, and as Cody pulls his arm back at one point to punch Kip Sabian, he hits Penelope Ford with an elbow, an inadvertent elbow to the face. She is down and totally out, and Cody, doing the chivalrous thing, picks her up and checks that she's okay, and that leaves him wide open to an apron running kick to the face from Kip Sabian. And Penelope's fine. She was playing possum. That damn dirty Jezebel, as Jim Ross was probably thinking on commentary. Cody gets back into it and at one stage takes his weight belt off to whip Kip Sabian with it, but Penelope's on the outside and she reaches through and takes the weight belt from Cody. And the referee, I think it's Bryce Remsburg, he tells her off. He's like, what are you doing? She's stopping him from using a weapon. She's actually helping you do your job. I know that Ford cheats all the time to help Kip Sabian win matches, but this time, this is a bit of a boy who cried wolf situation. She was doing the right thing, Bryce. But the heels do just ramp up the heel tactics. There were so many heel tactics in this match, just everything you can think of. Kip Sabian fakes an injury at one point and then uses the referee checking on him to get a little breather before blindsiding Cody. At one point, Cody has a really nice near fall, a crucial near fall to potentially win the match, but before the referee started his count, Penelope just chucks one of her shoes into the ring and he has to remove that and then only count 2. It's infuriating, but I think in the right way. By this stage, Arn is livid. He gets in the ring, picks up Ford's shoe and just hurls it into the crowd, which is really funny. And Bryce is like, get out of the ring, Arn, you're not a part of this match. And Arn, he bumps him in the chest, he gives him a little shove, and Bryce is like, mate, you're out of here. And Arn is distraught. The heels aren't distraught though. Kip Sabian takes advantage again. He meets with Penelope Ford on the outside at the corner of the guardrail and the entrance ramp to give each other a little kiss, a lovely little kiss. And they lean in, and then like a film, like in a comedy, Joey Janela just rises from the front row. He's in the crowd and leans forwards and they kiss him on the cheek and he's like, well, hey, I got one over on you. How did he know they were going to be there? That's my question, Joey Janela. Were you scampering around the whole arena? What's going on? Anyway, that's enough to totally throw Sabian off his game. Cody takes control once again and just goes into overdrive to beat him. Maybe he's annoyed at all the heel tactics. Maybe he's annoyed that Arn got ejected, but he hits the Cody cutter and then 3 crossroads to pick up the victory. Whoa, powerful. There was a lot of good and bad in this match, and I think it all averages out into a B grade potentially. I liked the action itself, I liked the work, the wrestling. I thought that was really good. Obviously, they're both really good wrestlers. I thought that the heel tactics occasionally were a little bit overkill. There seemed to be a lot of them, and just throw everything you can think of at this match. But on the plus side, Cody did get, his measure of revenge at the end with 3 crossroads. And then I'm not sure if I enjoyed Janela's involvement. It just seemed a little bit unbelievable to me. I know I'm saying that on a show where there's a dinosaur and a man who doesn't do anything and keeps his hands in his pockets all the time, and there's various outlandish I know that it's wrestling, is what I'm saying. I know that it's wrestling, but that for me did feel a little bit shoehorned in. On the whole though, I enjoyed the match, I enjoyed the segment as a whole for what it was, so I'm going to give it, a solid B grade. Next up, Tony Schiavone, not having learned his lesson from last week, has to interview Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, again after she was so mean to him on the cruise ship. Aww. And she is mean to Tony again. Towards the end of the interview, jumping forwards a little bit, she says he's got gingivitis and that he needs to grab a toothbrush, man. But the bulk of this promo is aimed at good old JR, Jim Ross. Baker says basically you sit there and collect a big paycheck while we do all that work in the ring, and also you can't even get the names of our division right, which is, whoa, shooting from the hip. It's a pipe bomb in Cleveland, Ohio. She also throws a shot at Riho for never being around, and it does seem like we're leading to Riho versus Britt Baker for the title at some point, possibly at the next pay-per-view. This gets a B- from me. I thought the content of the promo was really good. I thought the delivery wasn't so good. It let Britt Baker down at certain points here and there, but it was a big task. She had quite a big rant to go on and get a lot of stuff in there, so it can't have been the easiest promo to cut. And I do think that she's improved even from last week, so hopefully if she keeps getting these chances on the mic, it'll just get better and better, and she'll become a more and more effective heel as time goes on. Next up, it's more tag team action as the former AEW Tag Team Champions SCU, Kazarian and Sky take on the Hybrid 2, Angelico and Jack Evans. Hopefully SCU haven't lost a lot of momentum since losing the belts last week. They've certainly got the crowd on their side. They come out in Kobe Bryant jerseys paying tribute to him, and it seems like everyone's pretty hot for SCU even though they're not champions anymore. Kazarian and Scorpio Sky come out pretty hot. They dominate the opening exchange, but the heels work their way back into it with little blindside attacks, distracting the referee. Classic fundamental heel tag team tactics. They're like a big Monster Energy version of the Revival. Okay, they're a little bit flashier than the Revival, let's be honest about that. But in fairness, I think that Angelico and Jack Evans' best contributions to this match wasn't really in their offense. It wasn't to do with all of their fancy flips and moves and everything. It was their bumping. They bumped all over the place for SCU in this match, and it really did help make the former champs look strong as ever. Eventually, SCU were too strong for the heels and hit the SCU later on Angelico, Jericho for the victory. But after the match, while Daniels is inside the ring celebrating with them, the Dark Order appear on the Tron, and Evil Uno says, "The Exalted One has told us to target you, Christopher Daniels." Ooh, wonder what's going to happen. I reckon they're going to batter SCU, because they said they were going to target Daniel's loved ones, but we haven't really seen, unless they bring like some of his actual family into the show. But I don't know, I guess we'll just find out what happens. This gets a B+. I thought it was a good match. It was a bit of a lose-lose situation for AEW in terms of booking this one, though. I think they may have booked themselves into a bit of a corner, because if you have SCU win, then you continue the slump of Angelico and Jack Evans, who really haven't been picking up a lot of victories at all on Dynamite so far. On the other hand, you can't really have SCU lose so soon after the devastating loss of the tag team titles. I think they went for the right call here, having Kazarian and Sky win, but yeah, it was a bit of a lose-lose situation. Good match though, I still enjoyed it. Next up, an excellent video package from PAC, who is on like a staircase outside somewhere, but just in his ring gear, and it's all grey and grimy, and he's just going for it, unleashing full Geordie Northeastern England rage on two people, on Moxley for beating him last week, of course, and says, "Well, you can go and deal with Jericho and all his cronies then." And then we get to the upcoming future of PAC, which is of course another match against Kenny Omega. He is livid that Omega is just fitting him into his schedule whenever he, isn't defending the tag team titles alongside Hangman Page. And PAC says, "No, Bonnie lad." He doesn't say Bonnie lad, I wish he did. He says he's coming for Omega starting next week, and there will be blood. Watch this promo if you haven't seen it. I'm giving it an A grade, absolutely excellent in both its unique look, its direction, and also the performance of PAC in it as well. Seek it out if you haven't seen it. A grade from me, can't recommend it enough. And finally, the big main event of the show, 6-man tag team action pitting Chris Jericho, Santana and Ortiz against the babyface team of Private Party and Darby Allin. Weird combo. Can't see them being friends in real life. It's like the Breakfast Club, isn't it? Because the Inner Circle are making their full entrance, then the theme tune goes on long enough that when it cuts out, the crowd sing the correct part, and they pick up on it and they sing it properly and loudly. And look at Jericho's little face, man. He's so happy. If you just stop there when you're watching it, just look how pleased he is. Bless him. There's lots of good double team work from the two tag teams in this match, the Proud and Powerful and Private Party. They're all doing really well. And a lot of good mat-based wrestling, classic wrestling stuff from Isaiah Cassidy, actually. But the hot tag on the babyface side is obviously Darby Allin, and when he does get that hot tag, he runs absolutely wild. He's so quick, so fluid in his movements, and has a great snap to all of his moves. He's just a total package when you want a smaller underdog babyface. He is so quick. And Jericho, by contrast, is so wily and such a veteran. He's so great at disrupting Darby Allin's flow, or whichever member of the babyface team is running wild at that moment, with little attacks from the apron, little uses of great timing, in a similar way to Dustin Rhodes, but on the heelish side of the equation. Jake Hager tries to get involved from the outside, but as he tries to get in the ring, Darby Allin just charges and kicks him back out, and then gets up top and hits a lovely coffin drop to the outside. That's you done, Hager, mate. Get out of this match immediately. You interfere too much. Jericho ends up isolated in the ring alongside Isaiah Cassidy after the babyfaces have just cleared house with all the momentum. Cassidy gets a very nice near fall off a swanton bomb from the top, but Jericho kicks out at 2, and then seconds later nails that Judas Effect back elbow, and that's enough for the 3 count. And Cassidy, by the way, sells it like he's actually been knocked out. His hands twitching. Hope he's alright. Looked pretty nasty. It was a sell. I don't actually hope he's alright. I know he's okay. But I hope he's alright in kayfabe, everybody. Wrestling's fun, isn't it? The Inner Circle celebrate on the ramp, but they're not done yet. They all head back into the ring to beat down those baby faces, including Jake Hager and Sammy Guevara. It's the full Inner Circle. And Darby Allin bears the brunt of this attack quite a lot, actually. Sammy Guevara gets Darby's own skateboard, such an insult, rams it into his gut, sticks his chin over the top of the edge of the skateboard, and then jams him into the canvas. It looks brutal. It looks like the Inner Circle are going to stand tall to end the show, but here comes Jon Moxley with a baseball bat like a big, scruffy Sting to clear the ring and chase off Chris Jericho. This gets an A-. I thought the match was good, and I thought the ending of the show was good as well. It hypes their eventual encounter very nicely. But how good was the show overall? I'm going to give this week's edition of AEW Dynamite a B+. It felt like one of those less important TV episodes that kind of just bridges the gap between more important shows on either side, but at the same time, AEW are occasionally very good at making these shows, these sort of B episodes of Dynamite, feel just as important and pack just as much quality in as the big feature episodes. One of those big feature episodes, I reckon, is next week, just judging by the things that are going on that show, especially Cody taking his lashes from MJF. But this show this week gets a B+. Hopefully, on paper, in theory, it should improve next week with what looks to be a pretty killer show. Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments section down below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, where you can pledge. And don't forget, of course, most importantly of all, to hit subscribe and to join us.